Okay, welcome again. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of Daystar and who we are and what we do. And basically, we are a center-based program that offers respite for families, educational enrichment for children, developmental programming, including a range of therapies and family support services. And we strive to meet the needs of the community basically by serving as a bridge between discharge from the hospital, which is often the NICU, and enrollment in kindergarten. So we serve children ages 6 months to age 5 when families need support and care. Usually they're on a new journey and a new path with a medically complex child, and we're here to help. We're here to listen. No matter how big or small your goals are, we want families to be involved every way in helping to map out the right path for your child and for your whole family. We'll help to identify the best strategies to ensure each child's success, and we'll be by your side when and where you need us. Some of the audience members may know us from our history in the community. Daystar was founded 28 years ago by the Sisters of St. Joseph's, and originally it was a partnership between Golisano Children's Hospital to find ways to support infants with special medical needs in the community. In the beginning, it was a medical foster care, so the infants and toddlers were medically stable enough to be cared for in the community, but they didn't have a home of their own. And then as advances in technology evolved in the 90s, Daystar segged into from foster care to nursing supervised child care, and that's what people most recall in our history, is that we had a residential home in Pittsford where we cared for 10 infants and toddlers, and it was mostly a volunteer team in a modest house in a residential neighborhood. And so because we could only serve 10 children a day and the space was limited, there were many children out there who still needed service, and so in 2013, we moved into a brand new center at Elmwood and Lactaville Boulevard in Brighton, and for the first time we had the capacity to serve up to 40 children, so that today our agency is able to serve many more families in the community. We provide a continuum of services to support them from the time they're discharged all the way from the hospital all the way until they get ready to go to kindergarten. This is a description of our mission. It's rather long. You'll find that we do quite a bit to help support the complex needs of the children we serve as well as their families. And basically our intent is to ensure that children receive all the supports they need to experience the joys of childhood outside the constraints of their medical diagnosis. And we want to provide them with the resources they need to fulfill the educational goals and enable them to successfully transition to kindergarten at age 5. An enormous part of our time is dedicated to the extended family, because we know that having a family member at any age with special health care needs can be stressful, and you may need partners in how to navigate your path. The next slide is one of my favorites because it really shows what the children do every day at Daystar. Every child deserves a chance to dream, to make a wish, follow their star wherever life takes them. So Daystar gives children with special health care needs a chance to thrive beyond the confines of a hospital or home, to play and make lasting friendships with other children, to learn and explore at their own pace in an encouraging atmosphere along friends, teachers, therapists, and nurses who you'll see in the slides, and to gain lifelong skills to build a solid foundation for their future. We really want children to be accepted as individuals as they defy the limitations set by their medical conditions, and we want them to joyfully celebrate childhood. So if you come for a tour at Daystar, what you'll see are children in a center-based program who are engaging with each other, who are engaging with the adults in the room to basically take on life and to experience all that life has to offer. I find that every day is a celebration at Daystar, and we do understand the incredible challenges each child is working to overcome. And we're ready to help the families with the resources they need in order to give them the best chance to learn and grow and experience all the joys childhood has to offer. In the beginning, sometimes when we get new referrals or families call, people have questions about, well, what do we mean by medically fragile? So I just wanted to go over that with this slide. When we talk about children who are medically fragile, we talk about children who might be dependent on medical technology or devices, and those might be children with feeding tubes, catheters, a colostomy or tracheostomy, and it also includes not just the child with the device, but the care of the device, the sterilization, observations of how it functions, and the general maintenance of that device. We also serve children who require medical interventions, who have complex medical regimens, and that might be someone who is on daily oxygen support, or we may administer medications intravenously or through feeding tubes. And then finally, most of our children require medical supervision. And at least an RN level nurse is available every day to be observing and monitoring any types of special health care needs that the children have. When we get referrals from the community, our referral partners are often the hospital, the discharge coordinators of the hospital, or maybe early intervention service providers. And we welcome families to come tour and take a look at our agency. And we determine eligibility both by the medical team, and they have an acuity rating scale, and children are considered based on their medical need. In general, most Daystar students require a minimum of about maybe 2 nursing exchanges a day. An example might be maybe they take an oral medication and they have a daily regimen of oxygen support. And then at the highest level, we have children who have highly complex needs, and they may represent needs from all 3 of these wheels on your screen, but not to the point where they need one-on-one nursing. Typically, the only children who might have too high of an acuity for Daystar would be children who are better served in the home one-on-one with one-on-one nursing, or children who can't come to center base because they have low immunity. Those are really the only 2 groups of children who end up not coming to Daystar. But another thing that also is a consideration is, since we moved into the new building and we have expanded the number of children we serve typically developing children with who are medically fragile as well. In our history, we had children with more complex developmental needs, but at the new Daystar, we have children who represent all stages of development. It's an fully integrated setting, and so some of the children who might have high medical needs might be patients of oncology, cardiology, or GI, where they have devices that are keeping them out of a traditional daycare setting or preschool. We have several teams that work together at Daystar to deliver all our services. So now that you know who we are, let's take a look at what we do and how the unique disciplines work together to deliver comprehensive services and supports. Our talented team of caring and experienced pediatric nurses, teachers, therapists, and care coordinators will partner with you to give your child and your family a custom combination of supports and services that are right for you and your child. Our coordinated care management services include early intervention services and therapies, Medicaid service coordination, family support services, and family training and education programs. So let's take a look at healthcare. It's really our primary role at Daystar, and the way that we deliver this service is by having nurses in every classroom. There are 3 classrooms at Daystar. The children are arranged by their age. There's an infant class of 8 children, a toddler class of 16, and a preschool class of 16 children. And primarily, the nurses are there to administer medications and provide medical interventions and to manage the medical technology and devices. And on this slide, you see on the right, there's a nurse who is setting a feeding pump, and you can see hanging there, she's also filling the bag with the nutrition that the child needs. So she's managing the care of that, but it's delivered in a more developmentally appropriate way. You see it's tucked into a backpack on the infant on the left hand of your screen, so that that pump doesn't get in the way of playing and engaging and working with other children and working with adults in the classroom. The nurses also provide daily health checks and continuous medical supervision. That's who we are and that's what we do. We're looking every day to monitor engagement and to monitor the health status of the children. And the nurses also work hard to collaborate with parents on the management of medical needs and compliance with medical appointments and orders, so we'll help you keep track of what's on the horizon for you. We take a look at what upcoming appointments you have, what questions you might want to ask at the appointments, what kind of feedback and medical orders, both that we need at Daystar and that you'll need at home. And sometimes parents just need a sounding board or a trusted team to validate instincts in order to boost their confidence, because you are the best resource for your children and you might have a sense of when something isn't quite right. And if you partner with us, the nurses often help parents to articulate that need and to advocate, to become better advocates for their children for when they go to those medical appointments. And so our nurses really partner with the entire family, offering support beyond just the classroom. The nursing care at Daystar is administered within the classroom in a typical routine, and what that allows us to do is to allow the children to have maximum engagement. So they're playing, they're doing, on the right is a picture of someone who's in music therapy and having a great time there exploring an instrument and concentrating on moving and making that drum sound with the rain beads that are inside. But at the same time, the nurse can provide a feeding through the G-tube that does not interrupt the flow of that music therapy session. And then on the left is a child getting nebulizer treatment, which occurs multiple times a day for some of our children, but they're not pulled out to the side, or they're not isolated in any way. The child in the photo has her hands and she's exploring a sensory activity, finding some hidden animals in a noodle activity. So basically, the nursing administration is done right within the routine in a natural setting so that the children can keep going with their day. Because the children are with us for up to 8 hours a day, most of the children come from 9 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. So the morning is structured with, we'll get to this in the enrichment section, but we have kind of a busy routine in the morning where they have different group activities that they go to. So there is time in the afternoon for rest time, and this is still a time where the nurses are delivering all their services, they're conducting medical monitoring, and they may have equipment that they use only during this time. Maybe oxygen, maybe some positioning with different supports at their head or on their back to make sure that they're sleeping in an appropriate position. Some children might use a CPAP machine during sleeping, and so the nurses are there at all times, whether they're actively engaged in the classroom or they're resting comfortably for an afternoon activity. With each discipline, so we're talking about the healthcare, all the nurses at Daystar, our partnership really extends beyond the walls of Daystar, and our closest community partner in healthcare would be the Golisano Children's Hospital. In addition to having a medical advisory board of members, medical team members who are on our board who help us to align our best practices with what's going on at Golisano, we also ensure that your child's care is fully coordinated across all the team members involved in promoting your child's health and well-being. Individual case management may require participation from an extended team of subspecialty medical providers, care coordinators, therapists, Daystar staff, representatives from social work. We all get together to make sure that we're taking a macro view of what this child is experiencing at Daystar, at home, and in the hospital. The Child Life team at Golisano has been helpful to us as well. They are responsible, they're trained and certified to care for the emotional and developmental needs of the children and families in the hospital, but they also help us by coming out to do site visits to work with individual children, to carry over protocols or introduce new equipment in a developmentally appropriate way. And they also have come to train our staff before so that we're sensitive to the developmental and emotional needs of the children as well. And then we also provide on-site clinical pediatric services through our nurse practitioner. During the day when the children are engaged in the classrooms, we take a broad look at how we structure their day at Daystar. And really what we do is we have an early education enrichment program. It's called the Special Education Early Developmental Strategies. And we invite children to play, learn, and build their individual skills at their own pace. With encouragement from our team of special education teachers, early childhood educators, therapy partners, and caring teacher aides, children are fully engaged and ready to take on new challenges. They're basically grouped in small groups of 8 children with 4 adults, so we have 1 adult for every 2 children at Daystar, which offers us not just the opportunity to physically assist the children, but to be there for their medical needs and to confer with nursing as our day progresses. The classrooms themselves are designed specifically to support children with a wide range of needs. We have adaptive seating and equipment and technology to help all the children participate to the best of their ability. And we really look at it as a welcoming early childhood center with structured programming that is developed for particular ages. So in the infant class, we're working on the transition to a center-based program and trusting new adults while providing traditional caregiving. In toddlers, the 2-year-olds develop their identity as learners, and we get to know them and know the best way to engage with them. We may introduce different forms of communication and sign language, the use of adaptive equipment or communication devices, and it may be where in the toddler class, it may be where children start experimenting with different supports. So standers, gait trainers, adapted seating, that's usually introduced in the toddler class, and our partner therapists, the physical therapists who come to Daystar, will assess those needs and then help our team to deliver that in the classroom. By the preschool age, so the 3- and 4-year-olds, they have a classroom where they're refining the skills that they began to learn in the toddler class and mastering the techniques and engagement if they use devices or if they use gait trainers and walkers. And it's set up like a traditional preschool. So there's structure to the routine, and they have a predictable sequence of events that happens. They have library time, they have group time, they have circle time and morning meeting, just as any early childhood center would. Throughout the day, the individualized accommodations ensure that all the children participate in the structure and routine of the classwork. So you see here, if the children need extra physical support to transfer or raise a hand at circle time or make a choice, we have that 2-to-1 ratio, so we have plenty of adults to help with that. And Daystar also contracts with Upstate Music Therapy to provide group music sessions 5 days a week for the groups of 8 students. Our experienced provider utilizes all kinds of accommodations and adaptive devices to ensure that all the children participate, and engagement might mean just exploring a new instrument or following directions to move to the music. There's a library enrichment program at Daystar. Each group of children has, we have a library at Daystar, a specialized room with the books and materials that we need, and it's based on a practice that was set forth by the Public Library Association that was developed for families to encourage reading and literacy at home. It's called the Every Child Ready to Read program. And we also have a pet therapy program where we have visits twice a month by our friend Maggie, the Newfoundland, and in this picture it's a guest dog who is a Labrador Retriever, and all the children love the pet therapy. A key benefit of center-based programming is that there's an advantage over home-based care is the opportunity for children to engage with peers and develop friendships. the typically developing children at Daystar serve as peer models and really help the other children to engage and learn, and also simultaneously develop compassion and acceptance of people with unique abilities. And it's one of my favorite pictures here is of one of our friends who naturally has an understanding that sometimes friends need help to engage, and they see that modeled through the adults, and they take that on as their own behaviors as young children. Daystar also just opened a new multi-sensory room. It's an environment that's designed to provide a safe, non-threatening, and dedicated space to promote intellectual activity and encourage relaxation. The children have so many activities to engage in the morning with all their therapies. This is a room that they can come to enjoy demand-free, empowering and meaningful and pleasurable activities that where there are no demands put on them. The young learners can come in and engage in exploring this bubble tube or fiber optics and anything that makes them interested in the world or just relax. It's just a nice opposing activity to all the therapies that they get. And we have an aquarium. It's not pictured here, but there's also a fish aquarium filled with saltwater fish that is adapted for special needs, and different actions can take place when they press the different switches, like starting a bubble wall or a light up volcano, and so the children are enjoying that very much. Our biggest community partner for the educational enrichment would be the OPWDD, the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. They help to refer candidates, provide funding for center-based respite through their waiver programs, and they also provide training opportunities for Daystar staff. The developmental services is another function of Daystar, and the children are grouped basically. The 0 to 3-year-olds have early intervention services, and then the 3 and 4-year-olds have preschool services. And in general, we serve as a host to the local early intervention agencies that provide individualized services for Daystar. So in general, therapies are prescribed individually for each child, and they may be conducted in the classroom where therapists push into classroom or pull out for one-on-one work. And these services include everything on your screen, so PT, OT, speech, special education, assistive technology, nutrition, and social work. And the families decide whether they want those services delivered at home, where they might engage in training and learning these different techniques, or they're welcome to come to Daystar as well. In general, we host almost 400, well, up to 400 therapy sessions every month, and we have 32 partners from the 4 different agencies here in Rochester. They partnered with us last year to reduce the number of therapy partners that were coming, because we had 65 partners at one point, and we were concerned about the exposure to during cold and flu season for our very fragile children. And so our partner agencies really helped us to identify providers that specialize in the care and delivery of services for medically fragile children. So that was a really wonderful partnership. An example of how our coordinated care model works would be every day we have children who are tube fed, who receive their primary nutrition through their G tubes or their NG tubes. And over the course of the time that they're at Daystar, they might transition to be oral feeders. So a great example of the coordinated care model that we support might be our need for information from the medical team. That might be a swallow study from GI, and they translate that into medical orders that we follow. And then as the children transition, there are therapeutic directives for oral motor skill development from the speech pathologist, and nutrition might consult, and we might add some calories for children as they're making this transition. And then the family gives us input on how it's going at home, and then Daystar provides monitoring of that as well. So it's really a team approach, and both the families and the medical teams partner with us on that. Another example of Coordinated care would be how the therapist prescribed different pieces of adaptive equipment. And then at Daystar, we have an opportunity to use those things multiple times throughout the day. So you see here, there are different children using supported sitting and standers, and we have the room and the capacity and the number of adults to make sure that those are used consistently every day for the prescribed amount of time. It might be twice a day for half an hour a day, and we can make sure that that's done to help improve the outcomes for the children. By the age of 3, we do want all the children to attend community area preschools, and some children will go to specialized settings with a school nurse where they tend to their healthcare needs at school, and others attend a typical class for typically developing children, as long as they can be about 2.5 hours without nursing care. And then as a wrap program, they come in the afternoon and they might receive all their nursing services at Daystar. The class is filled with all these dynamic children who are becoming increasingly sophisticated learners, and many of them we've known since childhood, since infancy. So it's really wonderful to see how they progress and become increasingly independent as they explore their world. Our community partners in the developmental services would be Monroe County Early Intervention and the local intervention agencies I mentioned who helped us to identify the preferred providers who provide services at Daystar. That's Bright Start, Capital, Liberty Post, and Step by Step. And then the CPSE and the CSE chairs in the school districts also will help the children to find Daystar and to find the appropriate school programs that have the nursing requirements that they need. We have, this year we have a host of different preschool partners. It changes every year depending on the number of children, but our closest partner, we have a lot of children, Mary Carroll Children's Center and CP Rochester. So each year that changes with the flow of the needs of the children. And then lastly, at Daystar, when a child enrolls, we commit to serving the entire family. And we believe that parenting an extraordinary child takes a village and then some, and parents really can be overwhelmed with the additional responsibilities of managing their child's continuing medical intervention and therapies while trying to balance their employment and the other demands of their life. Very often the children who come to Daystar are just one child in a family of 3 or 4 or 5 children, and we want to make sure that families have the time to dedicate to other family members as well. We promote a collaborative process of assessment, planning, and engagement, and we provide opportunities to network with other family members and to come to our regularly scheduled family social hours where we can each share stories and compare experiences, both medical and emotional, and share hopes and dreams with each other. The monthly gathering of speakers features people from our different community resources. It could be Golisano Children's Hospital, special education school representatives, OPWDD, Medicaid Service Coordination, early intervention. We just want the families to be exposed to what's out there and to help put them in touch with our partner agencies. Lastly, some community partners that really support Daystar would be the Medical Motors Transportation Service. We have about 60% of the children utilize this service to get to day respite every day, and they work with us to attend to the needs of the children and transport them safely every day. And then Compassionate is also a community-based program that helps the families of children with special health care needs obtain other services for the extended family, not just a child. It's a partnership with Excelis Care, and it's unique in its breadth of service to alleviate the stresses experienced by the families of medically fragile children, and we're very happy to support them and for their partnership. So as you can see, the Day Respite Center, it offers infants, toddlers, and preschoolers unmatched opportunities to learn, play, and discover the possibilities beyond the limits of their hospital bed and their home in a community of children facing similar experiences. I love this little snapshot because there's so much going on here, because it's a music therapy session where the children are engaged both with the therapist but also with each other, whether it be looking for support from an adult or turning to the friend next to them to join in the activity. And I think that this is just a nice snapshot of what it looks like every day at Daystar. And as powerful as the environment in which they're engaged, the children at Daystar really exude the joy, spirit, and grace as they experience the joys of childhood and build this solid foundation for the future. So that's really what we're all about. So I wanted to thank you for listening to my presentation. I invite you, if you have more questions or information, to call the number on your screen, write that down and call us and schedule a tour, or check out our website. And if you have questions now, I can take a few questions about anything that we do.
Thank you, Dana. What a wonderful community resource. I think I want to come and spend some time in your Seesaw multisensory room some afternoon.
I know, the staff like loved it.
Yeah, a little downtime. I think I could use that right now. Anyway, we do have a question from the audience, and
Sure.
Could you repeat again the number of children that you serve in your facility, and
Sure.
Is there a waiting list for Daystar?
Two great questions. We serve, it's based on the size of the classrooms. So the infant classroom is a little smaller than the others. We take 8 infants at a time. The toddler classroom serves 16, and they're broken into 2 groups. There's a younger group and an older group, and they each have their own routine, but they share a classroom. And the same with the preschoolers. There are 16 spots in the room, but most of those children come half day, so we can serve up to 32 preschoolers if everybody comes half day. And to answer your question, we do not have a waiting list, surprisingly. The children, I didn't mention this earlier, but as the children get increasingly healthy and independent, they may graduate early. So not everyone stays until they're 5 years old. The children who no longer are using medical devices or who can be on their own and go to either a typical preschool or typical daycare, they graduate early at age 1, 2, 3, whatever age that they become more stable. So that opens up seats every year for new families. So we're welcoming children of all ages at this time.
And actually, the children of all ages question leads into the question that we have, another question from the audience. Are there any plans for serving children older than age 5?
Not yet. I think that it would be, I think we need to establish ourselves and perhaps, because we are the only pediatric day respite center in the whole state. We have a challenge ahead of us, but we are supported 45% by the philanthropy of this community. So that really speaks to the support that's here. And if there's increasing demand and support for, let's say, another building with wrap care for older children who are school age, we would love to do that. So that's something that we'd love to know if there's more interest in. But we don't have plans at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. It does seem like it might be another unmet need in the community for the children who have reached age 5 but aren't really in a position to be able to access other supports in the community. If Daystar's supports could continue, that might be a good thing. But as you say, it's dependent on community support and community needs. So great question.
Absolutely. And then if people are interested, it's almost hard to capture how dynamic it is with the young children there in the slides. Like, I really do welcome anyone. I'd be happy to give families tours, or if you have an interest in it, because really seeing the children in action speaks 1,000 times more vibrantly than my presentation ever could.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. I don't see any more questions coming in at this point, but again, Dana's contact information is on the screen. This webinar is going to be archived, so you can go back and listen to it again. Her presentation will be on there, and you can always just jump right to the last slide to get that contact information. So I think at this point we'll take a 5-minute break as we transition to the next topic, which will be the presentation from TouchStream. Thank you again, Dana, for joining us.
Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.
Okay, welcome back. At this time, I'm going to turn the controls over to Lisa Izzo from TouchStream, and she'll begin her presentation and with her introduction, and then get into all of the information TouchStream has to present for us today. Let me just say that although the screen will say that Dana Bennett is talking, it's going to be Lisa for this presentation and then the people from Prevention First later on. We just didn't bother to change links from one presenter to the next. So we're still using the link that Dana had joined with. So, but be aware that it'll be Lisa talking. So Lisa, you should see a link to share your screen at this point in time. And we can see that. So welcome, Lisa. And Lisa, please check the red button on your microphone to make sure that you're not on mute. If the light is solid, your microphone is live. If it's blinking, you're on mute.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much for inviting us to be here and show people how our tablet can be part of the toolbox that people need to work to help family members and other care recipients to be more independent and keep the caregivers informed about what's going on. I want to start by apologizing. I know that it was advertised that Wendy McLaughlin was going to be here, and she is not. I am. I'm Lisa Izzo, and I'm actually the Director of Customer Experience at TouchStream. We're a very small company, and for many of the things that we do, we are pretty much interchangeable people. In this particular case, Wendy had something that she needed to do that was Wendy specific. Only Wendy could do it today, and it came up rather last minute, and she asked me if I would step in, and this is one of those interchangeable things. So I'd like to start out by showing you a video that kind of gives an example of an overview of how our system can work for people. So I'm going to, whoops.
Lisa, can you pause that for a second? We aren't hearing the audio on that.
Okay.
And oh, I bet I know why, because the audio is coming through your microphone and not coming out of the computer.
I can put my...
If you unplug your headset, let's give that a try. And then you'll be talking through the built-in microphone on your computer. So unplug the headset that you're wearing.
She said to unplug the headset. Whoops.
Okay, are you unplugged now?
Yep.
All right, let's give it a try.
Okay.
Yep, we can hear it now.
Excellent.
Based system for caregivers, whether you're a professional caregiver or a family caregiver. It does verbal prompting and reminders, and it can send notifications back to the caregiver. From anywhere in the world, you can create a schedule or add activities or manage doctor's appointments or manage medications or a health plan or whatever you need to do. It's always ready to go. It's always there to communicate. It's always there to keep families connected.
Andrew has always dreamed of having an independent life, and I look at this as a really important tool to help him with his own independence.
For Andrew, evening medications.
It reminds me of what I have to do when I have to do it. Appointments, responsibilities, those kinds of things. It's very helpful.
What TouchStream does, it helps me so staff don't have to remind me I want to be independent.
Activity for Bunny, set the table.
They're able to not feel as though they're being told what to do, but they're really in control of their own goals and healthcare services. It's given Adam a life that I never knew he could have. His independence and his confidence has increased so much as a result of it. There's no way that Adam would have the life he has now without the tablet. The tablet's helpful in that she can see something written down, she can hear it said, she can repeat it if she needs to have it repeated. I've seen such improvements with the folks that are using it. I've seen individuals take ownership over their health care, folks that have diabetes, folks that have high blood pressure, folks that have weight issues. An increase in their wanting to learn more about what their health is and how important those things are rather than a staff person or somebody else doing it for them.
The system will remind them when it's time to take their medications. They just remove the compartment and they hold it in front of the tablet. And just like your groceries get scanned at the grocery store, the tablet's going to scan your medications. TouchStream, it can talk to wireless glucometer for someone that has to manage blood sugar, a diabetic. TouchStream is also capable of talking to a wireless scale where they need to weigh themselves on a regular basis. We create a log and a history of those, and people don't have to log them manually anymore.
This has been just extremely beneficial. Those who want to do it by themselves and not have so much staff interaction, it's been very beneficial for that.
Awesome technology.
When there's a growth of independence, their self-esteem just increases, they're happier, they feel like they can accomplish more. Like, oh yeah, you know, I just accomplished that. Now let me see what's the next step I can accomplish. When I call, I don't have to call to remind her about a zillion things, so I don't have to be the bossy mom. The tablet system takes away a lot of that worry. I love it. It's amazing to see how this system touches the people that are using it. We're really making an impact in a variety of settings, and it's really exciting to see.
When you have someone tell you that you changed their life, you really can't help but feel good about that. And that's what our goal is every day. Is we listen to our users, we build new features based on the things that they ask us about because they're life-changing things, and that's what we're in the business for.
So that is the overall view of how our system works, and I would like to take some time now to actually just show you a demonstration of the tablet. This is what it looks like. It sits in the user's home. At its core, our system is really a calendaring system, but it has verbal reminders, it has these themed icons to help people who have trouble with reading, and it's not just chimes and buzzing. It has the ability to look back in history and see whether things have been done or not, and it has the ability to send alerts to caregivers, either via text or email. So an example of how that could be beneficial is we had a user who regularly took public transit to get from her day program back home in the afternoons, and one day she got distracted on the bus and she didn't get off when she was supposed to, and nobody even knew she wasn't home for several hours. And then they had to, call Rochester Transit, and they had to figure out where she was, and there was a lot of worry and a lot of fear about what might have happened to her. They gave her a tablet, and now she has a check-in activity every day at between 3 and 3:15. So if she hasn't gotten home and checked in by 3:15, her family knows that there's a problem, and they can follow up much more immediately than they could before.
Excuse me, Lisa, I just want to let the audience members know that if they would like to increase the size of the webcam, what they're probably seeing now is your touchscreen slide, but in the webcam pane, if you hover over the lower right-hand corner, audience members, you can click the double arrow and it will make the webcam your primary viewing window, and it will minimize the other screen. So if you want to see a bigger version of the tablet demonstration, do that. Okay?
Thank you. The other real benefit of this is that a tablet is doing the reminding, not a person. It takes that interpersonal tension out of the equation. We've all had that time when we ask somebody, did you remember? First there's the eye roll, then there's the sigh, and then there's the yes, why do you always ask me that? I can remember the things I need to remember. We can take all of that out because the tablet will do it, and the tablet doesn't have that interpersonal relationship with the person who needs to be cared for. So one of the first things I want to show you is how we handle medications. So you can see this is Susan, on her tablet, medications is flashing red. That's her indication that she's actually late taking her medications. When it's time for something to happen on the tablet and it's time for her to do an activity, the tablet actually will automatically speak. And what will happen is this activity will come up all by itself and it will speak. Oops. Did I not turn on the speaker?
Activity for Susan, morning medications, today at 9:30 a.m.
So it tells her verbally what she needs to take. It tells her what specific medications she needs to take. And you may notice that here the little camera icon has shown up. We actually can provide a Mediset that has removable pill boxes. So if Susan has gotten confused and she thinks it's actually Thursday, so she pulls her Thursday morning medications, we ask her just to hold those in front of the tablet.
Wrong medication. Please select morning medications for Wednesday.
So now Susan knows which medications she needs to get, and it isn't until she actually presents the correct medications, and I've pulled the Wednesday morning ones now.
Correct medication. Are you taking this medication now?
So this actually also asks her to verify that she's going to take this medication at this time. This resolves two problems for people. When we talk to people who are caring for care recipients who have medical needs, there are two issues. One is the people forget to take their meds. The other one is they take the wrong medications. So we've solved both of those problems, and now we can look on this tablet and we see that it's checked off. In a few minutes that will actually go away and it will clean up the screen. The way the tablet can work, she can tap on this blue bar at the top and she can see all of her activities for the day. Now, because Susan is a demonstration person, she has a lot of activities. Most of our actual users don't have that many things, but they can look. She can scroll and she can look, what do I have to do tomorrow? And she can look through the things that she has to do tomorrow as well. So it gives her the ability to kind of look ahead and see what's going on. Now, we have the ability to help people with chronic disease management. We can help with diabetes, with high blood pressure, and with obesity. So two ways that we can handle that. One is an automated way, and I'm going to show you that with the blood sugar. So Susan's activity pops up and it says,
Activity for Susan, check your blood sugar, today at 10 a.m.
Okay, so Susan has just a regular glucometer here, and she's going to follow the steps that she would normally follow if she was testing her blood sugar. And I'm going to pull this back a little bit so you can see. I'm going to put my strip in. I'm going to get my magic blood, and I put my blood on the strip just like I would if I was really testing my blood sugar. It counts down. Now Susan sees the number, which, as you all know, is very low, but when she pulls out the strip, that's when the sort of magic happens behind the scene. This dumb glucometer is connected to a transmitter that we can provide, and the transmitter turns it into a smart glucometer. So Susan doesn't have to worry about keeping track, recording the numbers. What do? The transmitter will automatically transmit her numbers directly to the tablet.
Blood sugar received for Susan, 33.
Now, this was her fasting blood sugar. So all she has to do is accept that.
Your blood sugar is critically low. Drink a glass of juice.
So all of the numbers, the protocols for what's normal, what's low, what's high are entered individually for every person, as are the directives that go from that. We don't provide those, the caregivers do. So Susan would drink her glass of juice and hopefully everything would get fixed there and she would be better. In the meantime, we will see momentarily that I'm going to get a text that comes from the system that tells me, as Susan's caregiver, that there was a problem with her blood sugar. So the system has done a variety of things here. It's helped Susan to know what she needs to do, and it helps me as a caregiver to keep track if there's a problem, because with a blood sugar that low, I'm probably going to want to check it out and see what's going on and touch base with Susan. So we can do that with Bluetooth technology with both, with the glucometer, also with blood pressure and with weight. And if we check here, I just got that text, and it says, oops, let me get the angle right here. Susan Williams' blood sugar measured today before breakfast at 10:41 is extremely low, 33. So that's the kind of immediate real-time response that we can give. Now, if the person doesn't want to have the Bluetooth technology or for whatever reason can't afford the Bluetooth technology, we can also do these things manually. So when her weight activity came up, she would check her weight.
Activity for Susan. Check your weight today at 9:45 a.m.
She would press the start button and a number pad comes up. So Susan is going to put in what her weight was when she weighed herself on her regular scale, and she presses the next button.
Your weight is above 130 pounds. Talk with Marilyn about your snack choices.
Again, what's normal, what's high, what's low, and what the recommendations are for behaviors responding to that are all customized by the people who are setting it up. So we can do that either with Bluetooth or manually, whichever makes sense for people. So sometimes it's hard for our users to get things done because there are so many steps to different processes, and sometimes things get forgotten in the process or they get distracted. So I'm going to show you an example of what it would be like for Susan to make breakfast. Also flashing green, that tells her that it's time to do it now. So breakfast is up.
Activity for Susan. Make breakfast today at 10:15 a.m. Scrambled eggs. You will need a frying pan and spatula for cooking. Take the egg beaters out of the refrigerator.
So Susan's having scrambled eggs for breakfast this morning, and we have a step-by-step instructions for her to help her do it and do it correctly and do it safely. So first thing it says is,
Step 1. Put the frying pan on the burner and turn it on high.
as soon as Susan checks that off, the next step will vocalize for her.
Step 2. Pour 1/2 cup of egg beaters into the frying pan. Step 3. Stir eggs with spatula until they are done. Step 4. Turn off the burner. Step 5. Enjoy your eggs with a glass of orange juice.
So we've accomplished a couple of things here. We've given Susan the independence to make breakfast by herself. We have made sure that she's safe by reminding her to turn off the burner. We've put a little personalization in there by saying enjoy your eggs. And this is actually starting to be used by people in work settings as well as at home. So when they have repetitive tasks to do at jobs, they can use that for that purpose too. Doctor appointments. Poor Susan has a lot to do in a very short amount of time today.
Activity for Susan. Appointment with Dr. Jill today at 11 a.m. Apple Transportation will pick you up today. Your mom will meet you at the appointment.
All the information that Susan needs about her doctor's appointment. Then Susan regularly forgets stuff before she leaves, so grab your cell phone and wallet.
Step 2. Make sure your stovetop and oven are off. Step 3. Grab your keys and lock the door on your way out.
Again, we made sure that she was safe by checking off that check your oven. It could be the coffee pot, it could be the toaster oven, but we're working to make sure that people are safe in what they do, as well as being able to get things done. We have a medical effects, whoops, I'm going to have a little bit to get to it. We also have the ability to do survey feature, asking yes or no questions. So Susan has a medication that she takes, and she needs to be aware, and her family needs to know what's happening with her. And it's a little bit early for this right now, but this would normally have, she would be able to read this, and then there would be a yes and a no button on here. And she would be able to pick yes or no for each of these things. And then family members can check in and see on the portal how she marked things off. So we know she can be aware of what's going on in her body, and family members can check in and see if she's having any side effects that go with her medications that she's taking. Last thing I want to show you on here is her PT exercises.
Activity for Susan. PT exercises today at 3 p.m. The PT exercises are on the paper on the top of your bookshelf. Make sure you complete each exercise 10 times to increase the range of motion in your left arm.
Again, everything is customizable, whatever needs to be there. We do not currently have the ability to link to videos or pictures, which is something that we have been asked for. But I do want to say that that is on our development roadmap, and we want to be able to to have people be able to link to a picture that would show them how to do the exercise or a video that would show them how to do that as well. So in its basics, that's how the tablet works. Activities come up, they do them, they mark things off, they press the I did it button, and the interaction with the tablet is very, very simple. Before I show you how all of these activities get to the tablet, I just want to check and see if anybody has any questions specifically about the interfacing with the tablet.
Yes, Lisa, we do have several questions, and I also wanted to mention to the audience that I posted in the chat pane links to the YouTube version of the video that they watched a few minutes ago, and then there's another upcoming video that you'll be showing, because it was a little bit choppy over the webinar platform. So if people would like to watch that again in a smoother streaming style, they can do that on YouTube, and I will post those with the webinar materials if that's okay. Is it all right for me to post the links to that? Okay, so those will be in the on the web page that is for the Inside Scoop series. You get a link in that each week. The participants get a link each week. So each week as we add materials, you'll be able to go out there. So if you want to rewatch that TouchStream video, the link will be there. So the questions, one audience member says, my father has a traumatic brain injury. How can this assist him?
We actually have a number of people who are on the TBI waiver who are using the tablet. Many of the problems that TBI users have are short-term memory problems, and so this is one of the best ways that we can help people. What will happen is when one of these activities comes up and it speaks, if the user doesn't complete the activity, it will come back and speak again. So it's got sort of like a snooze. So let's say it said to make breakfast and Susan was outside, chatting with a neighbor when it said that, and she missed the verbal reminder. 13 minutes later, it would come back and remind her again verbally until she either marks it as complete or until the time that's set for it elapses, at which time then alerts would go out to family members. So it's really about helping people to remember the things they need to remember. It's got the calendaring and the verbals and the extra reminders, and then family members can reach out and touch base if it seems that there's a problem.
Okay, terrific. We have a couple of other questions. How different is this from a smartphone with a calendar?
In some ways it is very much like a smartphone with a calendar. The smartphone with the calendar doesn't have the ability to give you advice based on what happens with your health numbers, with your weight or your BG or your BP. And the calendaring systems that I'm aware of do not send alerts to family members if there's a problem. So in some ways we do what a lot of other applications do, but we kind of take a whole bunch of different things and put them all in one place. You can get telehealth and you can get calendaring systems and you can get reminder systems, but we put it all in one place.
Okay. Would you say that there's a particular age group that benefits most from this? Youth, young adults, older adults?
We have users as young as 7th grade on it right now, up through 90-year-olds. So the only issue is sometimes with the elder population, there are some problems in that they tend to be a little bit more tech resistant. So if we tell them that we're going to put a tablet in their house, sometimes they get a little, they're pretty sure they don't know how to use technology. Usually once we show them all they have to do to use it, it's they come around and they understand that they can. But we have people of all ages and all different cognitive levels using it.
Okay. One of our audience members says that the steps seem somewhat complicated. I think perhaps the directions for making breakfast, there were multiple steps. And
yes.
Is that automated, or is it the parent or caregiver who sets that up, or how does that work?
It's the caregiver who sets it up. However, the steps need to be as detailed as the steps need to be or as general as the steps need to be.
And do you have any kind of templates for typical daily living skill kind of activities that could be shared with, so that it's not starting from square one, and recognizing that they would need to be personalized depending on the needs of the individual, but are there any starter templates?
There aren't starter templates. If a person chooses to go with our system, basically I work with them individually and we talk about what their needs are, and I would help them set up the portal and figure out what the best things are and the timing on those things. So you get that personal, we don't just say, here's the web portal, here's a maybe instruction manual, and good luck to you. Okay. I work with every family and people individually to help them make sure that it's all set up the way they need it to be.
So perhaps if it sounds a little overwhelming, it's likely that you'd introduce perhaps 1 or 2 activities to make sure that the individual is, so that it's working, test it before you load up an activity schedule like Susan had in your demo. So you
exactly. Yes. Nobody has that kind of activity schedule in real life.
Right.
But in order to show you all of the different kinds of ways that we can help, because different people obviously need different things to help them. Some people don't need the step-by-step. Some people don't need the survey. Some, but we want to show you all of the different possibilities to kind of get the creative juices flowing for people.
Okay, and there are just some questions about how someone would go about getting a device to use with TouchStream. So how would they acquire it? Is it cost effective? So can you talk a little bit about the process if someone's interested in pursuing this for their family member?
Absolutely. I believe that our the slide that we showed at the beginning that has our contact information. You can call our office, you can go to our Facebook page or our web page and get links to the info, and then usually it's a pretty quick setup process. We have you fill out a little order form so that we know what kinds of devices you want. I would say, generally speaking, in less than a week you can have your tablet in your house, and I can be working with you either in person or remotely depending on where you're located to get it set up. And in terms of cost, I don't want to throw out numbers because since this is going to be archived, they could be changing as time goes on. Our cost to you for the hardware is our cost to us for the hardware. So, it's you would need to call us specifically and ask, because it also depends. We run on both Wi-Fi and cellular, so if people don't have access to Wi-Fi, we can run on a cellular system, but that costs a little bit more too. The cost in terms of there's a monthly subscription fee that gives you access to our portal, and it sends you the alerts and it sends you the updates to the application as we continue to improve it and make adjustments to it. And that is right around the same cost as the personal emergency response systems, the little buttons, which are in the $30 to $50 a month range. But again, that's not a set price that I'm quoting. But that's to give you a sense of what it would cost.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we have right now about the tablet specifically. So if you're ready to go on to the next part of your presentation. So should we suggest that audience members, are you going to be closing the webcam at this point?
I'm going to close the webcam.
Okay.
Which is down, where do I do that? There we go. Stop sharing the webcam. And now get to, can I make that go away? I need to get to my internet browser here. And I'm just going to take a couple minutes because we're almost out of time for my part of the spiel here to show you how you would go about setting up a couple of things on the tablet, just to show you how simple the portal is to use. So I'm going to log in. And when you first log in, you will see all of the people for whom you are responsible. So for instance, and I'm waiting for this to take a minute to load. There we go. As a caregiver, I might be caring for my uncle, and I might also be caring for people as part of my job or other family members as well. So here, our overall philosophy at TouchStream is green is good, red is bad. So when I look at this, I see red because her blood sugar and her weight were not where they were supposed to be. I see green is good, she's done all the things she's supposed to do. I see that the tablet is connected to the internet, so everything is, the information from the tablet is being sent to the internet the way it's supposed to be. And if I just click on Susan's picture, that would take me to her entire day, and I can see all of the things that Susan has to do. And apparently because of the way this browser is working on this laptop, that looks a little weird, but all of these would normally be lined up. And if I need to add a new event, I can just go down here to the Add Event button. And then if you've ever ordered anything online or filled out a Google Calendar, that's pretty much how it works here. So we could put in the event here, which could be water the plants. We have all different types of activities, appointments, birthdays, doctor appointments, weight, check-ins, hydration, meals, and exercise. If it's something that repeats, we can have it repeat every other day or weekly on certain days, so weekly on Mondays and Wednesdays. If it's something like a course or a class that's being taken that's maybe for 6 weeks and it's going to end, we can put an end date and then it will no longer show up on the tablet. This is where the information like get out the eggs and mom is going to meet you at the doctor's office, that all goes in here. You can add the steps by using this part. You can determine the nag factor. When is it going to start talking to Susan? So it can actually start talking to her up to an hour before the event, or if it's something that she's normally pretty compliant with and she only needs to be reminded if she's forgotten, you can actually have the tablet not speak to her until the activity is over. And then it'll be like, oh shoot, I forgot to do this. You decide whether something is worthy of getting an alert. Watering the plants probably doesn't matter. Taking her meds or testing her BGs, those are important elements, and somebody would probably need to get those alerts, but you decide how much people need to know if things are done or not done. And setting up the health and the blood sugar plans are very similar in terms of filling in the blanks. And I'm just going to show you, you talk to the doctor, you find out what the acceptable numbers are, you find out what the notifications to the user need to be if the numbers are out of what they're supposed to be, and do you want to get the alerts if they're not exactly where they're supposed to be, or do you only want to get the alerts if they're at extreme problems. So that's quickly how the portal works, and like I said before, if a person is going to be using this, I work individually with the caregivers to make sure that everything is set up the way they want it set up. Other questions? I think I'm almost out of time here.
Let me just check our questions pane. I don't think,
Sure.
no, yep, we don't have any questions right now. So I think if you want to go on to the last video, we're in good shape for that. And again, audience members, I did post a link to this on the TouchStream. It'll take you to the TouchStream YouTube channel, and a link to these videos will be posted with the webinar materials, because it may be, again, might be a little choppy through this webinar platform.
All right, so here's our last video.
And Lisa, do you have your headset plugged in? If so, you're going to need to unplug it again.
Yep, thank you for reminding me.
When David came into the program, he had services with him 24/7. Was ready to give up on himself and was ready to give up on the program and was willing to just go back into a nursing home. He went from having those services to the introduction of the tablet allowed us to remove his services. He hasn't had an issue with that since that transpired, and that was huge. He is independent, he attends all of his doctor's appointments, and he wants to continue. He's actually happy about life. He's excited about his future.
It's allowed me to organize my life. It helps me with recognition that I need to take my medicine and I need to get to sleep on time. I can plan my day accordingly. It just allows me to have more independence, and I feel good about that.
This is a guy a year ago, literally a year ago, who was ready to just say, you know what, forget it, I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to work with anybody. I don't want to see anybody. And now he does everything, and he's grateful for his life. It's in his mind, it's given him his life back. That's the biggest thing that I take away, is that we feel like we've been able to help give him his life back.
Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Nothing coming in right now. We are seeing the contact information for TouchStream Solutions. So again, if you have specific questions about pursuing the use of a tablet for yourself or a family member or for someone that you work with, you can contact TouchStream with the information that's available on the screen right here, and that will be posted on our website with the materials from today's webinar. So thank you again, Lisa, and thank you to Wendy for working with Courtney to get this all set up. We really appreciate it, and we will at this point be taking another 5-minute break so that we can transition presenters to the next topic. So again, thank you very much for joining us, Lisa, and
Thank you for having us.
we're glad you could be here.
Right. Great job. Hi, Molly. Hot off the press. How'd it go? Good.
I didn't use even half of what I had ready to go.
I know. We were all worried about the time. You did awesome.
Ended up something
Proud
wrong.
Audience back, and at this time I'm going to turn the controls over to Molly Clifford from Prevention First. She and Robert Crandall will be presenting on their organization, and they're going to do a little introduction when they take control. So welcome, Molly and Robert.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks so much to Starbridge for allowing us to be here at this webinar. It is our first webinar, so you'll have to be a little patient with us, but we are very excited to be here. So we are here to talk about building a supportive team when it comes to safety for children with disabilities. And we are part of an organization called Prevention First. We are a nonprofit that focuses on injury prevention and fire safety for vulnerable populations. So we work with children, older adults, and people with disabilities, and people in low-income communities, all of whom are at greater risk, unfortunately, from injuries and fatalities associated with unintentional injuries. So we're showing a screenshot there of the Prevention First website, which is preventionfirst.org, so you can see a little bit more about what we do.
Molly, excuse me, before you go too far, we're not seeing your screen at this point, so you should have seen a pop-up that said share my screen.
Okay.
Is that window there? Do you see the?
There we go. I think I just hit it. Does that work?
We'll give it a minute. I'm not seeing it just yet. So,
all right.
If you expand your control panel, there should be a button that says show my screen.
There is a button that says show my screen.
Can you click that for me, please?
Yeah.
And now we can see your screen. Terrific. Thank you.
All right, great. And you can see Bob Crandall, who is a very handsome guy, as you can see. I was going to try and go backwards here a little bit, so we can go back to the website. So hopefully we can do that in a minute or two.
If you click into your PowerPoint, lower left-hand corner of your PowerPoint presentation, and get the arrow so that you can go backwards that way. So just click somewhere on the PowerPoint and your toolbar will go away, and then you should be able to, okay, now you can go back. Okay.
All right. There's me. Yes, excellent. All right, everybody's happy. Oh, no, I've just lost it again. Sorry. I'm sure we'll get this eventually.
Use your left arrow, and you'll be able to. You should be able to back up at this point.
There we go. All right. Yay, we got it now. All right, sorry about that, everybody. So this is our website, preventionfirst.org, and again, you can see some of the programs that we run for a large variety of populations. So just to give you a little bit of background on us, again, my name is Molly Clifford, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Health Strategies. I'm also on the board of Prevention First, and for about 4 years, I was with the Rochester Fire Department, where I led efforts on community outreach and public education. I'm also on the board of the Regional Center for Independent Living, so I've been involved with the disabilities community for quite some time, and it's a cause near and dear to my heart. So there's me, and then I'm going to turn this over for a minute to Bob Crandall so he can tell you a little bit about himself, and we're going to now work these controls like masters.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here with you. I'll look forward to kind of getting any questions and feedback you have as we go along. I'm Vice President of Prevention First. My background is the fire service. I spent 31 years in the Rochester Fire Department. I've been a part of the Prevention First and Community Health Strategies team since the beginning, and we'll look forward to kind of any questions you have regarding the program as we move forward. Back to Molly.
All right, great. So today we want to tell you a little bit about why we're focused on safety and why we focus on fire safety in particular. We also want to acknowledge that while we have done a fair number of programs with agencies that serve people with disabilities, we are very much aware that there is a wide range of disability among the children and families that you serve. So we know that some of these programs are not going to fit everyone, but we just want to let you know that these are things that have worked for us in the past, that the agencies that we've worked with have really enjoyed and found useful, and that we hope you will get some benefit out of thinking about the the messages that we want to share in particular. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fire problem, talk a little bit about home fires and particularly the incidents as it relates to people with disabilities. Then we'll talk a little bit about Play Safe, Be Safe, which is our preschool and elementary school program. And, you know, we use those terms kind of loosely around developmental stages. Then a couple of programs that we've done recently in the middle school, high school level, also as part of our Rotary Sunshine Camp program, which we did last year and we'll do again this coming year, which kids have found really enjoyable and useful as well. And then we'll give you some links to the resources and materials that we use that you can find online and hopefully will be of value to you as we go forward. So if we talk a little bit about the fire problem, unintentional injuries, and that includes fire, falls, drowning, poisonings, are the leading killer of all people ages 1 to 44, and then for people again over the age of 65. So when we think about unintentional injuries, we kind of think, you know, that might be something that happens to other people, but unfortunately it's very, very common, and that's sort of the reason for prevention first in itself. Just you know, one of the reasons that it's not the leading killer among people 44 to 65 is because some of those serious injuries just catch up, whether it's cancer or heart disease, but unintentional injuries really do affect everyone, and that's why Prevention First is out here really trying to make a difference there. The unfortunate thing is that people with disabilities are at even greater risk than the non-disabled population. So 4 times more likely to die in a fire, 6 times more likely from a fall, and 6 times more likely from drowning. And that's really why we are here today, is to make people aware of that, and we all know that we are on the same page as we go forward. You know, why do we worry about them, particularly the ones that happen at home? Well, unfortunately, people with disabilities are at greater risk of unintentional injuries that occur at home as well. So again, when we take this view that, you know, it's just an accident, there's not really anything that we can do about it, that actually is not really the case. There are steps that people can take and should take to try and keep themselves and their families safer. So, you know, we spend a lot of time on fires because, unfortunately, they do occur pretty frequently. These are national numbers from the Center for Disease Control and the National Fire Protection Association, but the thing that we know about them is that there is actually a huge underreporting of fire statistics. Those smaller fires where someone has maybe managed to put them out themselves, or there's just been a minor burn that doesn't require any hospitalization or ED visits, we know that those fires are happening at greater and greater numbers. So we really want people to be aware that this is indeed a big problem. So one of the other issues that happens with people with disabilities, unfortunately, is that they are much safer often in institutions or in residential settings like group homes than they are at home. And, you know, as we all know, and you are all very well aware, as people with disabilities are moving into more independent settings, unfortunately their risk of unintentional injury increases, and that is, you know, really simply because you know, some of those institutions have better fire protection systems. They are regulated, some might say over-regulated, but those things actually do work. So our mission here is to make sure that people are just as safe in their home as they are when they would be in some other kind of living setting. So if we go back and we talk about the leading causes of home fires, cooking is the #1 cause of home fires and of related home fire injuries, and that's really true across the board. Across the country, between 50 and 60% of home fires start in the kitchen. So that is absolutely an area of concern, and why we want to make sure that people who are cooking and using the kitchen really have the tools to be able to do that safely. We say especially frying, and that is absolutely because grease fires make up a big part of those fires that happen in the kitchen, so really of concern there. Smoking is the #1 cause of home fire deaths, and this might not surprise too many people, but you know, unfortunately, oftentimes people who smoke may be smoking in bed, they may fall asleep, they may be under the influence of alcohol or some kind of medication, but unfortunately when a cigarette may fall and embers will flare up when people are sleeping, and unfortunately that leads to home fire deaths. Heating, particularly this time of year, we really want people to be careful of space heaters because having combustibles, clothing, whatever, too close to those space heaters is a leading cause of home fires, again, especially around this time of year. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that. And young children experimenting. While that's not really a large cause of fires, it is one that happens, and it's one that we spend a fair amount of time dealing with, so that's something we'll talk about a little bit more here. And the approaches, particularly with young children, we want to make sure are different, because children have a developmental level where they may not understand the true cause and effect that happens with something as simple as, say, a birthday candle turning into, unfortunately, a larger problem. So, you know, we've talked about some of those leading causes of home fires, and, you know, we want to say it is very rare that a home fire is caused just out of the blue, that it's really, truly something that just happened without anybody doing anything about it, say a lightning strike or a gas main explosion. The leading causes of home fires very much have human behavior at the core. So, you know, I think we're probably all guilty of it. You know, we're cooking on the stove and the telephone rings and we just walk into the other room for a minute because, you know, nothing's going to happen to us. We've done this before. You know, we've gotten away with it, so to speak, and you know, that is one of the leading causes. As we know, fire spreads very, very quickly. With the right conditions, it can double in size every minute. So taking those risks really, unfortunately, can cause really bigger problems. And when we talk about people with disabilities, one of the risk factors that has been identified in some national studies is the feeling on the part of caregivers, whether it's family members or others, that there really isn't anything that they can do to prevent home fires or prevent unintentional injuries. That actually increases the risk of people with disabilities who are living in independent settings. So we all need to be motivated, we all need to understand the risk, and we all need to take steps to make it better. So we call our program, Serving People with Disabilities, Safe at Home, and it has 4 core goals. One is to raise awareness, then to motivate action, address critical environmental risks, which are really critical and can be very useful in trying to prevent home fires and associated injuries, and then reinforce key safety behaviors. So those are really elements of all of the programs that we do, and we want to make sure that, and particularly where children and families are concerned, children can be really great motivators and motivate better behavior among the family as a whole. So our preschool and elementary school program called Play Safe, Be Safe is really specifically focused on young children and early developmental levels. It's sponsored by the BIC Corporation, which is a corporation we've worked with for nearly 20 years, and it really focuses on the dangers of child play versus child fire setting, really addressing the curiosity that many children have around fire, which is perfectly natural, but something that obviously needs to be addressed. So we focus on 4 basic messages, and you can find some of the activities and games related to fire safety, particularly for this population, at playsafebesafe.com. So I would encourage you to go and check it out. I think you will find that kids are can be very engaged in these activities, and it really helps with learning, and that's what we've found certainly across the board. So message number one is my friend the firefighter, and we certainly find among children of all ages that firefighters can often be heroes, but when they may appear at your door in the midst of a trauma in their turnout gear with the helmet and the breathing apparatus and the big clothing, that many children are traumatized by the sight of the firefighter and unfortunately can engage in either hiding behaviors or be very, very difficult to deal with. So we try and get children engaged with firefighters at a young age and really spread the word that firefighter underneath those clothes, underneath the uniform, is a person, and he or she is a community helper and is a person underneath all that strange clothing. So my friend the firefighter and the associated activities is really focused on making sure that kids will go to the firefighter in the event of a fire or associated emergency. The second message is stop, drop, and roll, and we realize that many children that you're working with are not able to participate in this activity, but those that can certainly love it. And of all the fire safety messages that have taken place over time, stop, drop, and roll is definitely one of the most popular because kids love to practice it. One of the things that we recommend is that we use the language around fire getting on your clothes rather than your clothes catching on fire, because kids often have a hard time sort of figuring out what that might mean. So when fire gets on your clothes, you need to stop and drop and roll. The next message that we use for this early population is stay low and go. You may have also heard crawl low under smoke, and that is the idea that the smoke and other dangerous substances tend to rise, so kids need to stay as low as they possibly can if there's smoke in the room. One of the things that Bob will talk about in a little while is identifying windows as an alternate exit or means of communication. When we've worked with populations and kids at Holy Childhood, we like to have them use the window as a way to wave to firefighters, to throw things against the window. Kids who may not be verbal can pound on the window to let firefighters know that they are there. So that's a very important tip that they can use to keep themselves safe. And then tell a grown-up or safe for play and keep away, and this is really about matches and lighters, and something that may seem very basic, but in dealing with families where there is smoking or a use of fire in the household, that it is the kids' job to let adults know that matches or lighters have been around. The teaching tool around this is that matches and lighters are grown-up tools, and it's the kids' job to tell an adult if they have left those tools out for kids to use. It's very rare that kids, are sort of sitting around or minding their own business and decide that they want to start a fire, that really having that access to ignition tools are the thing that can give them the idea and give them the incentive to start playing with fire, and that's obviously something that we want to avoid. So there's a game and activity on the PlaySafeBeSafe.com website called Safe for Play Keep Away, and it's a great thing for kids to be able to use, and which really reinforces the message that matches and lighters are adult tools and that other things are safe to play with. So those are really the 4 key points that we use with the younger population based on fire prevention messages and some fire survival tools. Play Safe is a great free resource for teachers, caregivers, and parents, and again, it's free, it's online, and we would encourage you to go and play with it and see how you may be able to use it in your with the people that you care for and love. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob now, and he will be taking on the next part of the program. So thanks, and Bob will have some I'm sure interesting messages. If you have questions along the way, we certainly encourage you to ask them. We're happy to answer them.
Okay, we're ready to go. I'm going to describe with you some of the models that we've developed with a great deal of agency help for the middle school and high school populations, folks with a little higher capabilities than the younger audiences. The first one I'm going to describe to you, the first model, is a 6-module program that was developed for a day program in an agency that serves people with intellectual disabilities of age ranges from about 8 or 9 right on through into the 40s. It was really about levels of capabilities. And a lot of these folks were either living independently, are about to live independently, or with caregivers. The content of the program, as you see there in the slide, the safety messages were smoke and CO alarms, exit drills and meeting places, and calling 911 and kitchen safety. They represent the largest risk factors for everyone, and particularly those with special needs. We chose those based on that being the higher risk. If you'll notice, there is a sequence there. Smoke and CO alarms we start out with, because we want people to respond appropriately to those alarms when they activate. The next action item in the sequence is getting out quickly and going to the meeting place, and then calling 911. The other major issue, as Molly already indicated, is that kitchen fires are the largest kitchens are the largest place where home fires occur, and it's mainly because of unintended cooking and poor behavior. So those are the lessons. This particular model, the first meeting was an orientation. We work with the agency to design this model and also implement it. So they were really close to us all along the way, even facilitating class activities. The orientation was really just a get to know you session where the folks in the audience got to know us and we got to know them, answer questions, and share with them what they were going to expect over the next 5 modules. In addition to that, we have a visual arts poster contest, which we use as part of the motivation for everyone. We explained that as we go through the modules, that there was an expectation they were going to select some of the information that's provided to them that they thought was really important to share with others. And at the end of the program, they were going to be able to kind of create a poster and a message that they felt was most important to them out of all the things that they were going to learn to be able to share with others. So we were very interested in hearing and seeing what they were going to create based on the material that we were providing them. We worked with the agencies when we do this program to time it. In this one case, we had each session was approximately 1 hour long, and it was delivered once a week. So that was the decision made on with the agency that we did this for. The orientation included caregivers. They were there to be able to hear what was going to happen and what the expectations were regarding the folks in our groups. And the first lesson was smoke and CO alarms, and we actually used real smoke alarms and real CO alarms that we could hand around and for everybody to touch and share and hear if they wanted to. And then we went through a presentation where we asked them if they were a smoke alarm, what would they be saying? So the idea here was to get the message or the sound of the sound of the smoke alarm or the CO alarm transferred into an action rather than just an alarming sound that often dishevels people, but to consider that a call to action. So we got a lot of great answers, and we processed that, and people felt comfortable not only with the sound of the alarm, but had a fairly clear expectation then what should happen next. So the following week we did exit drills and meeting places. In this particular lesson, we used a 7-minute video of folks who we videotaped, 2 real families doing their exit drills. They allowed us to film them, and there was a few mistakes made, and it was great for the folks in our group to see these people actually doing their drill and to point out some of the things that they could have done better if they had spent more time practicing. We also talked about exiting in other places in the home and comparing kind of the exit to a way out. And we used some actual exit signs and talked about if you were in the mall or in the theater and the alarm went off, what would be the next thing you should think about, and that would be the closest exit, and we did an exercise around that. The next activity was calling 911 in the sequence, and we addressed this with role plays and flashcards. We'll talk a little bit more about it, and you'll see some photos a little bit further in the presentation that when we talk about this. It was a great activity for people to get involved in, and we had great success with that. So they got to hear the message, they got to role play in the lesson, and they got to see and touch the activities with the flashcards. And then the last activity, formal activity lesson, was on kitchen safety and working with the facilities that we work with. We used they had a room with a little apartment that they used for training, and it had a kitchen in it, and we used that kitchen, and we chose some activities to actually show that how kitchen fires start and how we can reduce the risks in kitchen by placing some items around that were inappropriately placed too close to the stove, handles out on the pots, things that don't belong in a microwave, and the folks got to filter through and point out the things that were wrong. And then we processed all that in class. And we also had a microwave activity, because a lot of folks use the microwave, where they get to reach in a bag and pull out an item that is used for cooking and describe to the group whether or not they thought it was appropriate to use in a microwave oven. And then the last activity, the last module, was where they worked on their posters and messages that they felt were important out of everything that they've learned. And at the end, we had prizes for the posters. We invited a representative from the local fire service to come in and see their presentation to everyone else, including their caregivers and parents, on the posters that they did. And we had a pizza party. So there was a lot of neat things that went on. And I could very easily go past the time talking about this particular model because it was so enthusiastic and we enjoyed doing it so much. The next slide actually just talks about the content of each model. We always started out with questions, 2 questions, which we designed specifically for the content of that lesson. And in the subsequent lessons, we reviewed those 2 questions each time starting out, and then we had new questions for the lessons associated with the current lesson. So we always went over the prior material. There was homework assigned, there was caregiver handouts, and all of that was gone over at the beginning of each session, and then we would introduce the new topic with the new questions. Those questions we actually used for evaluations. We repeated the questions each time and recorded the answers, and the evaluation was the answer was articulating all of those questions at the end of the program and recording the answers and seeing what the difference was. We had the discussions, we used activities. There were the material was provided visually, it was provided verbally, it was interactive, there was touching, there was role plays, there was videos, there was internet use. We use a variety of communication styles to address the activity. And again, as I mentioned, there was an homework assignment each time. For example, the one homework assignment associated with smoke alarms was to go home and count your smoke alarms. And the caregiver, each caregiver got a handout, and the handout was related to the topic that we were discussing. And so that was what each module looked like in that particular program. I'll give you a, excuse me, I'll give you a sample of the questions that we asked that actually turned out to be the evaluation for the program. The first one is there is when we started out was where do most fires happen? And as you can see that we gave them a couple of choices with some visuals. And the answer is at home. The next question is what is the most important fire safety equipment that you have in your house? And the answer is smoke alarms. Having a working smoke alarm in your house cuts your risk of dying in a fire by more than 50%. A little figure there for you. One of the other questions we had was how quickly should you leave your house when the smoke alarm sounds? And those, the multiple choice right away, after you've seen what's wrong, after you wake up. For this audience, the correct answer is right away. As I mentioned earlier, we wanted to equate the sound of that alarm with an action plan so that they knew exactly what to do, where to go, and to do it quickly. The next, one of the other questions we use is if there's a fire in your house, what should you do first? Follow your exit plan and go to your meeting place, or call 911? And the correct answer is follow your exit plan and go immediately to your meeting place, and then call 911. The kitchen safety lesson questions were if you are cooking on the stovetop and the doorbell rings, you should leave the kitchen and answer the door, yes or no? And the answer is no. If you have to leave the kitchen for any reason, you need to turn the stove top off and remove the pan and then go. Unattended cooking, as Molly already indicated, is the #1 cause for home fires and home fire injuries. So we wanted to make sure that we address that. The neat thing is that as we went over the questions at the end, everybody really did pick up knowledge. When we asked the questions in the beginning, some of the answers came in a little fragmented towards the end. They were quite affirmative about what they needed to do, and we were happy with those evaluation results. The camp program, this was a program we do at a summer camp for folks with special needs. It is a 1-hour activity. We have the kids come in and we bring props. Well, you'll get to see some of those in the photos in a minute or two. We have 4 lessons, 4 skits, kind of role plays that we have written up, and we give one of those role plays to each of the groups. The staff are wonderful facilitators here. They participate in this. So I'll try to give you a look at one of the lessons. This first skit was when an alarm goes off, what do you do? And this is what's given to the group, and each group gets their instructions like this, and then they zip off into a corner, practice their session, figure out who's going to play what role, and then using our props that we have brought to the session, they act out this lesson. And I'm not sure how well you can see that, but the instructions are pretty clear. We've used some graphics there. We had great success with this. I'll show you the picture. That's probably one of the ones that where you'll get the best idea. You'll see our prop door there, and this young lad is acting out what you're supposed to do when you hear the alarm. And we had an actual smoke alarm, which one of the other folks pressed the button and the alarm sounded, and this young lad got out of his bed, rolled onto the floor, crawled low over to the door, and you can see he's appropriately checking the door with the back of his hand before he's opening it. As you complete the lesson, he needs to go through and peek out to see if there's any smoke. If the door is not hot, if the door is hot, then he goes to the window. And they got to play that all out, and then we group processed how everybody did. There was a lot of clapping, a lot of cheering after each role play. The next activity we did was what you need to do when you call 911, and here we used a prop phone and message cards, and we had one important bit of information that you need to provide to 911 on each message card. And the idea was that one person in the skit played the 911 operator, another person in the skit played the person who was reporting an emergency, and another person would hold up the cards so that the person reporting the emergency knew what information to provide. And I think we have a photo of that activity. And there you see two of our folks on our prop phones, one calling in the emergency and the other one playing the 911 operator. And our staff person is holding up the message card so that they could see the information and articulate it back in the role play as they're reporting their fire. The next one is kitchen safety. And we actually used, we didn't use a real microwave, we used a message card with a picture of a microwave on it. And we had a bag of kitchen items, and the role play here was for someone to be the microwave with the picture of the microwave, and the other person was to hold up the item and the microwave. The group was to process whether or not the item in the bag should go in the microwave or is not safe for microwave cooking. And we'll see a picture of it here shortly. There. That was swimming day. They came to us, and you can see the one person's holding up the message card with the microwave on it. The other folks in the skit are holding up items and asking the audience what they think is this particular item appropriate for the microwave. And you do get to see our props in this shot. You see our window and our door, and then a little bit of the meeting place tree on the right side that kind of helps us simulate our skit activity around a home. The next one is home hazards, and this focuses on kind of safety practices at home, which include safe storage of matches and lighters. And the idea here was that a young lad would come home from school, go through our prop door, drop his book bag in front of the door, which is a safety concern if you've got to exit safely. But at the same time, and he gets lectured from the other person in the skit that he shouldn't leave his book bag by the door, but then he finds a match laying around in the house, and he gets to articulate back to his father, who the staff person played the role of, that he shouldn't leave matches around. And you'll see that in one of the skits here. And there is the young lad who had dropped his book bag by the door, got reprimanded by his father, but also was able to point out that the lighter shouldn't be left around. And that really kind of describes the camp program. There's some of the resources that we actually used in our program, some of the internet activities, and we hope you enjoy them. we've chosen them very carefully. We've used them a number of times, and they've met with a considerable amount of enthusiasm, which makes us happy as we kind of need alternate ways to get the messages across. I hope I didn't use up too much time, because I would very much enjoy to hear any feedback from anybody. We have our contact information on the screen now. If anybody has wants any additional information or has questions, they can call or write to either one of us at any time, and we would very much look forward to hearing what you have to say and providing any additional information if you would like. So, any questions, anybody?
Thank you, Molly and Bob. We don't have any questions coming in right now, but I think we'll give people a little bit of time to process what you've said. And I wondered if we have providers in the audience who work with perhaps in a group home or at a camp. How would they go about arranging for you to do one of these series for individuals to get them up to speed on how to be safe at home?
Just contact Molly or myself directly.
Okay, terrific. We have a question from the audience. How is it possible to advise the local fire department if you have a child living in your home who has a physical disability?
Yep, most 911 centers have what they call Enhanced 911. I think locally in Monroe County we call it Spin 911, where you can actually provide the 911 center with the additional information if you have a person who has a disability or a special need, and then that whenever a call comes from that location, that information will then be provided to the emergency responders. So as we would be rolling in to respond to that particular location, the information would be transferred to us, so it would give us a head start. So yep, you can just contact your local 911 center, provide them with the information, and they will make sure that that's articulated to the first responders should there be a need for an emergency response.
Okay, I have what may seem like actually another person voiced my particular question, which is, do you actually call 911 to do that, or is there a different way to get that information to the 911 call center?
You can call 911 to do it, but there is, if you look in the phone book, you'll see that there should be an emergency administration's number, a non-emergency number that you can call. But you know, when we deal with this in the actual sessions with the folks in our groups, I'd rather have them use 911. The operators are trained to deal with these things and you know, determine at what level this is an emergency. So the people on the other end of at the 911 centers are usually pretty nice people and are sometimes used to handling non-emergency calls, but anybody can look into the or Google their local center and find an administration's number. But all else fails, just call and tell them that you have some information on a non-emergency basis you'd like to provide.
Okay.
And they'll be happy to take it.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any questions right now, but at this point I'm going to post the link for today's SurveyMonkey to give our audience a few minutes to respond to that survey, and the link will also be posted on the website with webinar materials. So if you don't get a chance to do it right now, you could go back, use the link that you used to join today's webinar. Well, in the email that you got to join today's webinar, there will be a link to take you to the website. So you can go there tomorrow or the next day to take the survey. And let me do that right now. And at this point, I'll ask Courtney if she has any closing remarks.
Yes, thank you, Pam, and thank you to all our presenters today and for all of you listening on. I will stress, if you could please take a quick minute and fill out, complete the evaluation. That is really helpful. That feedback is really helpful to us, as well as to bring this to you through our partnership with the DDPC. Just to give you a heads up, session 2 next week will occur March 30th, same login time, 9:30 to 12 o'clock, and we will focus on organizing medical records, finding quality medical and related information online, and how to make the most out of your visit and support available through the hospital. We have Dr. Manasi Landrigan, also Wendy Lane, Golisano Children's Hospital Child Life Specialist, as well as Carrie Noyes from Starbridge will all be presenting next week. So we look forward to having you join again, and thanks again for being active participants today.
Thanks, Courtney. I'm going to leave the webinar open for a few minutes so that that link is available to our participants. And as Courtney said, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your flexibility. I know that it was a little confusing when we had to send out a secondary link for this webinar, but we're so glad you could join us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week and on April 6th.